Live with my stepmom. What losing a mom feels like. It's the 21st century, and we live in a highly opinionated world where everyone has their own notion of what is good and bad, right and wrong, and as a result, we as humans tend to take a lot of things for granted. When I lost my mother, it put a lot of things into perspective for me because I didn't feel ready to talk about it here before. One of the hardest things to deal with as a child is losing a loved one, since there are no instructions on how to handle something like that, especially when the deceased is someone as irreplaceable as a mother. My mother was my best friend, and for a long time, my only friend. My mother was unable to conceive children after marrying my father, and in the Jehovah's Witnesses, there is stigma associated with women who are perceived as unable to conceive. However, because my mother was a strong woman, she never let what my dad's family and those close to her said affect her. And eventually, 5 years later, she gave birth to me. I remember one particular time when I was in the 7th grade and my classmate pointed out that I had a push-back hairline. I didn't think much of it, but he started telling a bunch of other people in the class, and they started to laugh at me and make funny comments, and this put me in a bad mood for quite a long time. This story is reflected in the name she gave me, June. It's apparently now she took care of me and never let me worry about anything. My mother asked me why I didn't want to go to the barber anymore when I didn't think she would understand about my classmates' remarks. She pointed out that her headline was the same and said, "It didn't matter what people said about you. What matters is what you let affect you. And once they see that you don't let it affect you, they'll stop talking about it." I don't think my mom realized how much that conversation did for me, even today. Losing her was particularly difficult for me, and I don't think I realized how deeply it affected me for a long time. My friendships were affected, I started to perform worse in school, and I developed some less than safe coping mechanisms. Because of all this, I believe that's when Jesus decided that I needed an intervention and sent one in the form of my cousins Nina and Ray. We had never been particularly close to begin with, but as they began to visit more frequently, they would buy me food, talk to me, and take me to the movies, because they had both recently lost loved ones. I believe it's reasonable to say that those two saved my life by preventing the downward spiral I was on. Thanks to them, I was able to mature and learn to smile, laugh, and be genuinely happy again, things that my dad was finding it difficult to accomplish at the time. I didn't know my dad very well growing up. All I knew of him was that he was the one who paid the bills, and that, for a while after my mother passed away, he found it difficult to connect with me and my younger brother. I don't blame him. He never knew his parents, so you were constantly moving from one family member's care to another. Society made him feel like all a man had to do as a man was put food on the table. So that's all. I remember one time in 9th grade when we had an open day at school, and parents came to the school to see the teachers and know how their kids are doing in school, and my mom had never missed a single one when my dad had to be the one to come. He had no idea how to be a father, but he was willing to learn. When he finally arrived, it was so late that all the teachers had already left for the day, and I had waited for him for such a long time, feeling so lonely as I watched other children with their parents walking around the campus. This made me realize that he simply wouldn't be able to fill my mother's shoes, but I could tell that he felt bad about it because he was really trying his best. Losing the love of his life made him realize that life's short and he owed it to her to be better for the children she left behind, and so he apologized to me that day, and I could tell that he actually meant to do better, and he didn't stop trying. He's my closest friend today, and it's funny to think that some years ago it wasn't ever like that. I have a stepmother now, and 3 other siblings, and regardless of what you might think, we're really happy living together. Unless one of us told you about it, you could never guess that we were not related. You could never tell we weren't related, but the reason this works is because my stepmom sees herself as filling in as a parent rather than a mother. She also treats her children the same way she does my brother and I. It's the little things sometimes. I see kids with their mothers, maybe when I'm out or on the TV, and there's just this intimacy between them, and you can tell because you really can't replace your mother's love. And when it does get to me, it actually makes me miss her. I was sitting outside the house. I was talking to my younger brother about mother sometime last year when I realized it was the first time since her death that I had actually spoken to him about her. I had been suffering from tunnel vision and assumed that I was the only one hurting because I lost my mother, but he did too. He was a very quiet child. I see so much of my mother in my brother, who is kind, emotionally intelligent, and patient. I see him and I see a better version of me, what I should have been, but I wasn't. And I wonder why. My brother and my mom understood him just like she understood me, and he lost that too. However, from talking to him, you can tell how much he's grown. He is now 14 years old, but he is so wise. Because he's a good kid with a kind heart, and I promised to take care of him and prevent him from making the same mistakes I did. I can be very hard on him these days when he does anything wrong. However, sometimes I wonder whether I'd like things to be different. Although losing her caused me to lose a lot, it also gave me a lot. It helped me discover my love for music, basketball, and art in general as a healthy outlet for the emotions I was feeling. It also helped me connect with my cousins and experience life's ups and downs. But, most importantly, it forced me to mature at a young age and learn to take responsibility for my own actions, because at the end of the day, I'm living for me, and I'm a product of all my decisions. Whatever choices are made concerning my life, I'll be the one who has to live with the consequences, and so I want to be able to make those choices for myself. I sometimes wonder if the dead can actually see what happens on Earth. I also wonder if she can see me and if she is watching. But whether she is or not, I'm going to become someone who can take care of the people I care about, just like she did. Someone who she can be proud of, and someone who I can be proud of. I'm not going to act like I'm perfect because I'm not, and I never will be. But I'll try my best to make the most of this life that I have, and to live in a way that would make her proud. So, even though she's gone, she's still with me in everything that I do. And for that, I'm grateful.